As athlete from Team Boss, 4th at USA's last year, 925 best as well. And they're off here. And then also look out for Krissy Gear, the Hoka NAZ Elite athlete. She's been on a winning streak. She won the BAA mile in Boston recently and ran 4:29 in the mile indoors, but getting over the barriers this evening. And that is Wayment at the front. So this is unpaced here, but there are points up for grabs. So down the line, winner gets 100 points, second place 80 points, third place 60, fourth place 40. So a lot of good World Athletics points here that can boost your ranking.
Shout out to Marisa Howard in second. She's a fellow mom, making her comeback. She raced at Drake in the road mile last weekend, and I love with Marisa, she just gets out there and puts herself in it, and it, case in point right now, up at the front of this race, gonna make it happen.
Howard a 9:22 personal best, and she's there on the left of your screen. Courtney Wayment right there on the rail, and that is
Konieczek right behind her, also in the same green top.
And then Krissy Gear out on the outside of Konieczek. So here we go over the first barrier. Just dabbing that back foot in the water. Everybody gets over it cleanly, at least from what we can see. And an interesting choice not to put the beer garden near the Steeple pit. It's on the opposite side of the track. Nonetheless, it's an exciting place to be.
The Steeple is an interesting race in that, not always would you want to be at the front leading a distance race, but with the Steeple, having that front position gives you clear view of the Steeple and the ability to kind of have a cleaner approach, perhaps. And so you might see in all of the distance races, this is one where you might see someone more than happy to go to the front because then they can ensure that they have that clean clearance of the barriers.
So those look like the favorites up front still.
Yep.
Wayment, Howard, Konieczek, and Gear.
And with the exception of Wayment, this world standard pace that they've targeted of 9:23 would be around a personal best. Howard has run slightly quicker than that world standard with her 9:22 personal best, but the rest of them, Konieczek, for example, 9:25, and I think Gabby Jennings 9:25 as well.
So Shuang Shu, the Chinese athlete there, is in 5th position, and then Carmen Graves rounds out that pack of 6 out front.
Coach Lee was excited about his athlete coming up into this race, Shu.
She's tucked into 5th there. And we still got Wayment out front. She's been defending that front position. The lights for this event are set at 9:23 pace. 9:23 is the world standard for the steeplechase. The USA qualifying standard is 9:35 flat. So many of these athletes will be looking at that 9:35, but if 9:23 is within grasp, then these athletes up front are certainly looking for that. And through 3 laps, it is 3:12.6. They're running 75 to 77 pace here as we approach the barrier. That's a great shot over the steeple barrier there with the drone.
I love the drone image. Shout out to Ivan, our drone operator.
Wayment at the front. Marisa Howard on the outside. Everybody getting the space they need over the barriers. And Konieczek in there, Polish athlete in 3rd still. Gear is looking strong in that 4th position. And she's staying out of trouble at the moment, the NAZ elite athlete. Former Arkansas Razorback, a national champion on the DMR team there. For all those tuning in Arkansas, let's call on the Hogs. Go ahead and do it in your living rooms.
But yeah, they're strung out. Like we said, kind of the athletes that we had mentioned at the beginning to have your eyes on are the same ones that we see at the front controlling this race. Most notably, of course, Wayment, who has the Olympian strongest PB by over 10 seconds. It is her season opener. This pace should feel, pretty manageable for her given what she's run before. But, you always have to feel things out. However, I'm sure seeing her teammates, her fellow BYU teammates that train with Coach Diljit Taylor, seeing them run so well must give her a lot of confidence. And she's starting to pull away a bit. They're behind that 9:23 pace, but starting to be some separation with Howard and Konieczek just staying right in there. And Konieczek, her head kind of down a bit side to side is exactly how she looked at Drake, except this time around she has not allowed a big gap to form that she then has to make up. She's right up there with that lead pack.
And some separation occurring here as the front three detach themselves. Wayment, Howard, Konieczek, and now Wayment getting a little bit of breathing room too, potentially on Howard, but Howard pulls her back. Wayment had a stellar year in 2021 as she was the NCAA national champion at BYU, and then that same year made her first Olympic team for Team USA. She was the third athlete who went with Emma Coburn and Courtney Frericks, steeplechase royalty.
Yes.
Not just on the U.S. side, but on the world side. And she's in great company there. But this is Courtney Wayment's race. She's been at the front. Nobody's been in front of her this whole time. It's been all Wayment. And Marisa Howard's trying to stay attached.
About 2 laps to go. It's always so interesting with a steeplechase because, it's hard enough to run a race. And then add to that, I believe it's 28 barriers. The water jump every lap except for the first lap. And so, for these athletes, as they become more fatigued, ensuring that proper mechanics to clear the hurdles. And that's where you see kind of the experience and fitness really start to show itself in these last couple laps. And as we watch, for example, Wayment just pulling away. But Marisa Howard, true to form, she's not going to give up without a fight.
Wayment's run on the biggest stages in the brightest lights. Her PR comes from Monaco last year, 2022. She ran 9:09.91 in Stade Louise.
We like that place.
That's one of the fastest tracks in the world and an amazing environment from what I've seen. But Wayment over this hurdle, and she's getting closer to a lap to go. She's approaching the line, and it'll be the bell lap. The green lights are ahead of her, so she's a bit off the 9:23 pace at the moment. We're getting a shot at the barrier back there. The athletes further back in the pack.
That was a 73, so her previous lap had been a 75. She's now picked it up to a 73. Marisa Howard was 75, now another 75. Krissy Gear was a 76 on her 6th lap, but picked it up to a 73, having some good momentum.
So Howard drifting back a little bit, and Gear trying to close it down on Wayment, and we've seen Gear's strength over this season. Like we said, in that road mile, which is a difficult course in Boston, winning that BAA mile the day before the Boston Marathon. But this gap is getting smaller and smaller from Wayment to Gear. And here's Wayment over the final barrier and Gear over the final barrier, and she used it well.
Gears was
getting that gap down, and she's a dark horse pick for many people out there. Krissy Gear swinging wide, going around Courtney Wayment, taking that hurdle easily, coming to the line. What's the time going to be here? Krissy Gear takes the win, 9:23.6 over Courtney Wayment at the Goodr Women's Steeplechase. You can see the results appear on the screen. That is Gear taking a big one for the NAZ Elite straight out of Flagstaff.
Previous personal best was 9:38, so just missing that world standard of 9:23 flat, I believe. She was 9:23.55.
That's right.
She just missed that. But such a strong close for her over the last 2 laps.
I think we can officially say that Krissy Gear has announced her arrival on the American steeplechasing scene, winning this over Courtney Wayment, the Olympian and 909 steeplechaser. And there's another name to add to the mix to American steeplechasing here. And we can see this replay on the screen. The pass as it happens, Krissy Gear going to another gear and getting around Courtney Wayment.
You just had to do it, didn't you?
It was laying out there. Krissy Gear breaks the tape and gets 100 more points added onto her performance points.